Okay, we're on the minute here. It's 1:15. We're going to get rolling again. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of dog and pony show here with Glenn Westendorp. Glenn is the Public Works Superintendent with the town of Comox. I'm going to drop the mic at the moment. Okay, I guess I'm stuck with the mic. It was interesting this morning when Jack was giving his presentation, and it was a complete surprise to us that he brought up the example of Brooklyn Creek. And it's great because, again, it goes back to this whole paradigm, if you like, to use Jack's words again, of collaborating, communicating, cooperating, and so forth. It's good to think that we were all thinking along similar mindsets here. So I want to just talk about Brooklyn Creek as an example of where we've had cooperation, collaboration, and communication over a watershed where we've got more than one boundary. In fact, there were three groups involved here. There was the town of Comox, the city of Courtenay, and the regional district. So here we are. This is where it's located. There's the catchment area. Key points, there's the city of Courtenay and the regional district boundaries again. And the two interesting areas of development are the Home Depot, which is located right at the headwaters, and Crown Isle, which is still in the city of Courtenay, right on the boundary with the regional district. There were some flooding issues involved. I don't know a lot of the history here, and we're sort of winging this as we go because I rather somewhat imposed upon Glenn to jump in and do this dog and pony show with me. So I've just prepared a little bit of the background here. Suffice to say that it's really interesting to see that we still have this ongoing theme here of boundaries crossing, working with the boundaries, working around these boundaries, and how we can cooperatively get things done. So I'm going to let Glenn jump in here, give you a little bit of history, tell you what was done, why it was done, who the players were involved, what some of the recommendations were, how those recommendations have worked out, hopefully to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Can you all hear me? Great, thank you. Notes, I'm not the greatest at public speaking, so I'll just follow my notes if I could. Flooding on Brooklyn Creek actually was first identified by one of our early pioneers, our naturalist by the name of Mac Lang, and this is going back turn of the century, and he mentioned that the inundation of the lower reaches of Brooklyn Creek during heavy rains and snow melts. It was again raised in a 1959 study by BC Department of Lands and Forest. The continued land clearing and urbanization of the watershed were leading to ever-increasing problems within Comox and all areas of the watershed. Erosion also was a major concern. Compounding the problem was the fact that Brooklyn Creek traverses three jurisdictions, which brings us to today's 4Cs component. In 1998, the town of Comox took the lead in soliciting the cooperation of all the parties with a vested interest in Brooklyn Creek. With the assistance of the city of Courtenay, terms of reference were drafted for a comprehensive study of Brooklyn Creek. Collaboration on this study included the city of Courtenay, Comox Valley Regional District, Brookdale Farms, and the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Environment, Department of Fisheries and Oceans, the Ministry of Transportation, Comox, and the Comox Valley Watershed Assembly. The major problems raised by this group involved sufficient capacity of major culverts, which were leading to the flooding in many areas in Comox and abroad, and the intended problem of property damage and risk to the public. Continued and escalating erosion was evident at the lower reaches of Brooklyn Creek, and finally, frequent and prolonged flooding on the lower portions of Brookdale Farm needed to be addressed. Solutions. With the assistance of all parties, a coordinated approach to solving the problems of Brooklyn Creek was devised. Initial concepts for solving these problems took the more traditional form of increased channel capacity and reconstruction of those culverts restricting the flow. With the input of the provincial ministries and the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, it became evident that this traditional solution would result in near total loss of the existing riparian habitat forming Brooklyn Creek. This traditional solution would have also had a significant impact on the private property owners who front on Brooklyn Creek. And finally, the cost of armoring the channel and replacing the culverts that were otherwise in good condition were well beyond the financial resources of the town of Comox, estimated at that time at $3.2 million. Instead, a course of action involving a suite of solutions was chosen. The first and possibly most important course involved a commitment from all jurisdictions to hold the line. Future development would be required to maintain existing flow rates and used every opportunity to implement source control to eliminate discharge where possible. Existing retention capacity in Comox was increased, and flows which had historically discharged into Brookdale Farms were rerouted to points downstream. Flooding on agricultural lands was reduced, and water quality was improved. Further retention was introduced into Salish Park, resulting in a control of flow rates and better water quality. Where ground conditions allowed, roof leaders from developments were required to discharge to rock pits. Where practical, open channels were retained over the construction of storm trunks. This forms a compromise that results in higher ongoing maintenance, but better water quality and increased time of delivery to Brooklyn Creek. The most substantial solution involved the construction of the Brooklyn Creek diversion, resulting in the removal of flows in excess of the 2-year rain event. For the results, flooding on Brookdale Creek has now been reduced and is compliant with the criteria by ARDSA. Flows on Brooklyn Creek have been reduced to the point where groups such as the Brooklyn Creek stream keepers may once again work towards improving fish habitat with confidence. Erosion has been reduced to natural levels that can be addressed through soft solutions, such as native plant retention and introduction. This suite of solutions resulted in a more modest cost, $1.8 million, and fit with the schedule of capital and development works underway in all jurisdictions. Any questions?
What's the level of cooperation with Crown Isle?
The level of cooperation with the city of Courtenay, we don't actually deal with Crown Isle, is quite good. This goes back well beyond my time, starting in 1998. When Crown Isle was first conceived, there was quite a detailed study done to try to determine what could be done to reduce the impacts or eliminate the impacts of on downstream. Comox was involved with that, and they were also party to that study. So I think in general that the cooperation that we've received is quite good. Again, with the Home Depot, we were invited and sat on the group that actually reviewed and endorsed the stormwater management techniques that went there.